Simone, thanks for being part of the Mastermind Interview Series.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
And I have to admit, I think I'm going to be a little intimidated.
That's not possible.
Oh, well, I've heard on more than one occasion from more than one person that you are a firecracker.
You have to put a lot of energy in what you do.
Yes.
I certainly put a lot of passion. So passion and energy together, sometimes can be misinterpreted.
And that, no, I think that's what they're all alluding to, because they all have big smiles on their face. There's no crying. So that firecracker is definitely that you have just this energy and love that conveys, to everything that you do.
Actually,
with
I'm
your
glad
team.
to hear that. And again, if it's interpreted in the right way, I consider a great compliment.
Oh, wonderful. Now, let's first talk about HZO, the company, and what that is.
Well, HZO, HZO is a company that has 7 years. It's 7 years old. And what we do, we protect electronics. We protect electronics with a chemical solution. Mm-hmm. But that would be just too short and not correct way of describing a company, I believe. What we do, we continuously do innovation. We innovate literally every week, I would say. We have a team of research and development and engineers that continuously come out with new ideas on how to process, our chemical in a better way. So be cheaper, to be more efficient, and to get to the client in a better way. Mm-hmm. We literally do that every day. So if you want to describe, HZO in one sentence, is an innovation lab that makes money.
That makes money. Love it. Now, in terms of, products that you do use, so much of us are connected to our devices.
Correct.
And we need them to be, for lack of a better word, resilient.
Sure.
It's almost expected anymore. And you provide that.
Yeah, perfect. You're absolutely right. There are a lot of devices now. If you think about 10 years ago, we didn't have so many. If you look in our pocket, we have phone, headset,
attached,
whatever. And the cost of it is quite significant. If you think about the cost of a phone, the cost of a tablet, cost a lot of money. Mm-hmm. And think about it, you want this to last, and you want this to be durable, and you want this to be resistant to, water or something that can happen. No, you don't want to lose it after a few days because accidentally you dropped under the water. No, you would be kind of upset. I would be too, actually.
Yes, a little bit.
So that is the starting point. I would say that this need that comes mainly from consumer electronics has been really the driver of our innovation, because the demand was there. We knew that they needed, and so coming out with a solution that was not, a legacy type of solution. Gasket or mechanical seals or sealing and epoxy or silicone. Mm-hmm. So we need to come out with an idea that was new and very resistant. And if you want, what we have done is that. So we brought into mass production something that was known in the market for some reason, but never brought into mass production. Mm-hmm. So that's what we've done.
Now, when you say innovation, I feel like a lot of people throw that around and they just leave it at that.
Of course.
Right? Innovation we're an innovative agency. We like to talk about that. But what it actually means, it's you're getting ahead of the marketplace while you're also serving the marketplace.
Well, let me explain you this.
Okay.
Our job is divided in 3 big areas. You got process, you got chemical, and you got capital equipment. You need these 3 to do what we do. We deposit a chemical solution on something. It could be a PCBA, it could be an electric board or something else. That's not very important. Where is the innovation? Well, the innovation is on the process and the capital equipment. So we continue to change the process and make the process better every day, and our capital equipment gets smarter and smarter and smarter every week. So what happened is that, at the beginning of our journey, probably 7 years ago is the company, but I'll say we went to market probably 4 to 5 years ago. Mm-hmm. Our first machine was great, but if you see our machine today, the cycle time is shorter. We can process more boards in a run. We have a much better, uniformity. That is the innovation. So we make the process better and better every day.
I think that's huge, because most people think, well, I'm innovative. So therefore, I innovate.
First of all, everybody has the right to say that, in my opinion. We don't have to be judgmental. I'm not here to tell you if I'm innovating more than somebody else. It's not my job. Our job is to keep the roll bowling every day. You know, really, you know, every day you go to a point. Well, you know, we shake hands, we're happy. The day after, boom, you go ahead. So that is the innovation. Never stand still and never think that what you have is going to rule the world. Because what you have is good today is not going to be good tomorrow. And if you don't innovate, if you don't come out with new ideas, well, the client thinks that you're done and you are happy with what you have. It's not, and you're not going to win.
Yeah. So it's in the doing.
Yeah, it's in the doing. Of course, then this goes into the technical. You know, you have chemical engineer, you have process engineer, you have material science. It's very, very technical, and I wouldn't say complicated because anything is too complicated to be done for us. But I mean, it is very technical. That's what we do. We innovate in I don't know, in some material that we use. We innovate in some, you know, process that we use, something that we change in the machine to make the process better. Okay?
Now, in terms of you, let's talk about you.
I'm not great in innovation.
Let's talk about your role at HZO. What is that?
Well, I'm the CEO, and that doesn't say anything. I'd say everything.
What does that mean? Yeah.
Well, that's yeah. No, I know exactly what it means. Let me put it this way. Being the CEO of a company, there is no one way of being a CEO, and there is no one way of running a company. Otherwise, you know, they wouldn't need me. You know, a laptop could do it. You know, you have a good algorithm, the solution is always the same, you do it. So our job when we go into the company every morning is to understand a quite complex word. You know, although it's a small company, yeah, it's not very big. I mean, we're growing dramatically, but I'm not a $2 billion company, you know? So we have a lot of employees. So understanding, first of all, you know, the vision. Where do we want to go? Where the company has to go tomorrow? You know, what do we want to be? What is my DNA? So if you don't know that, you don't go anywhere. Right. So you have to understand that. You talk with the board of directors. We all agree that, yes, that's where we want to go. And then you work in that direction and you bring the people with you in that direction. And you want to make sure that everybody not agree, because it's not a matter of agreement, but they get inspired by that idea. And then, you know, you can have the best idea in the world. You can have the best price of your product. But if you don't do execution, you die. You know, you every day have to deliver. If HZO became what it is today, it's because, believe me, we have delivered every day with an incredible quality, like a Swiss watch, I would say, like bum, bum, bum. So execution is very important. So my job is to try to keep all this together the best I can.
That's brilliant. We talked to someone he works for a company called For Life that has a long history.
Sure.
They've been around for a number of decades. And what he said specifically was, you know, best idea does win, but the difference and the game changer, because a lot of people can have the best idea,
sure,
is the execution.
Indeed.
It's the fact that you start doing and going.
Indeed. I mean, having an idea that people don't buy is just a very good idea. I'm not an artist, you know what I'm saying? I mean, what we do is very practical.
Mm-hmm. Now, in terms of your industry and the company and the need that you fill within the industry, is there education that goes with it?
Well, that was probably true a few years ago.
Okay.
When we started, I mean, probably 4 years ago for me, roughly, we needed to educate our clients. You know, there was not the level of knowledge that I can find today. Mm-hmm. And I'm talking about any kind of industry, consumer electronic, automotive, wherever you go. Today, I mean, coating and protecting electronics is a must to happen. So our clients are equipped with very knowledgeable people. The discussion today is incredibly challenging. 2-3 years ago, I had to go, you know, with a device coated, dipping in the water, show them that it's still working, and create the interest in what we do. Especially in consumer electronics. Consumer electronics wasn't probably 3 to 4 years ago ready to start using, you know, chemical solution to protect devices. Mm-hmm. Today is a discussion that we have every morning. So I would say that that was true in the past. Today, sometimes we learn when we go to the client, actually. oh, come on, I didn't know that. But then, you quickly take it and make it yours.
Right, right.
So it's a completely different, it's way more interesting today for some reason. If you want to, it's better to go to a client and have, a discussion that is no longer, hey, you need protection. And now the discussion is, hey, what kind of protection can you give me?
Now, in terms of your team,
yes,
you have probably hired a lot of people in your lifetime.
A few.
So in that few, how do you identify quality, the ones that are going to, do the thing, but also challenge you when necessary?
That is the question. No? When let's say that you start a research for something, HR manager, okay? You go to an agency and say, hey, I'm looking for a guy. Hey, what do you look for? And you give them, your idea. And they send you somebody, a list of people. All these people are expert. At this stage of our career, you don't talk to a person and you want to make sure they really knows the job, because they know the job. When they come to us, they all are good in what they do. They're probably the best. Now the problem is, do we click? Is the right person? Is the right personality? But not just with me, because I adapt every day. I can't. I always say something that when you're young, you look for the perfect woman, and then you end up with your wife. In the sense, I love my wife, but she's not the perfect woman. And believe me, I'm not the perfect man. But we still live together and we love each other. So the same story is when you hire somebody. You look for the perfect guy, the perfect HR manager, and you click with somebody. And then you want to make sure that this person click with the team, because you don't want to hire somebody and the guy get upset and start not working or maybe having a bad performance. So building the team is this chemistry. This is fantastic. Actually, it's the most funny part of my job, to try to understand people and to try to understand how can I take this person into the team and make sure that instead of having a disruption, I create value. So far, we've been quite lucky. We did mistake. And I would say that I did mistake. We have evaluated people that were not good. But that happened, it's life. But what's important, what is super important, if somebody is not good, it doesn't mean that he's not a good person, doesn't mean that he's not a good manager. It just doesn't fit with the situation and with the moment. And
then what do you do in that situation?
When somebody's not good? Well, it's just one way of finishing it. And it's not even a question. You know how you end it. If you got to do what you got to do in the interest of the company.
Right. And I've heard from a lot of individuals that there's a way to do that really well. There's a way to...
That's an interesting thing. I don't know. When you break up with one of your fiancés, never be happy. So one of the two is going to be upset.
Right.
I think here is the same. Of course, you have to do it. First of all, never take it personal. Never be mean. So, and try to base your decision on fact and not on feelings and opinion, because that it gets difficult.
Right.
And I say, I don't like you. I say, okay, what do you mean you don't like me? If you say, listen, you did not perform well here. So when you have the discussion based on fact and based on performance, I've never seen a person say, or fighting or just fight back. It's a different story when you do a layoff. When you do a layoff, is a terrible moment, right? Because you got to go there and you got to look at numbers. You don't look, it's really probably the worst moment that can happen in a company. But it's different stories. It's not telling somebody, hey, I'm sorry, it's not going to work.
Right. Yeah, here at 97th Floor, we have an alumni group, alumni association, and there's a percentage of those individuals that they still show up to our activities, but they at one time were let go.
I see.
And those conversations, you're right, they were in the moment, upset. It usually is somewhat of a surprise, even if they're okay, something wasn't meshing for me, but that takes a little bit more time for them to process that.
But again, if you do it based on a real reason, let me say this, then the time wash everything. At the end of the day, you don't get upset forever.
Right, and
listen, happened to me. It happened to me.
Yeah, same.
I had to leave a business. I was upset the first day, and then I said, you know what? And I'm still in good terms with these people. I think it's normal.
And what I love is that, there have been, our COO does this really well, is that he reiterates again and again the value of the person. Even if it wasn't a good fit, he's really great at saying, I value so much for these reasons. This is not a good fit. And then eventually, they almost always come back and they're like, that was the best thing that happened to me.
I gotta have an interview with your CEO.
He is great. He's really good at
sure
that. And they end up becoming clients later, but just coming back, and this alumni association it's been really, really
Great.
interesting to see that.
Great.
Now, Simone, what is your leadership style, would you say? Other than being a firecracker.
It's I don't like to answer to this question. It's like, I think others should answer to this question. But let me tell you what I think. Honesty is very important. Continuous curiosity. I mean, you have to be curious. You have to understand. Never make a decision without understanding something. And curiosity, it's unbelievable, because curiosity drives to evolution, and evolution drives to innovation. So that is very important. Try to inspire people. Try to, you don't want to tell them a story. You want them to feel as excited as you are about something. And then, listen. And this is something I learned, of course, not when I was young, but a little later. But to learn and to listen to people, be empathic and try to understand how they feel, because sometimes they come to the office and they have a bad reaction, and then you learn that something happened. Mm-hmm. So I try to be all this. On the other hand, I have to be a leader and I have to push for continuous innovation and to growth. So you don't grow 300% a year by smiling every day. Sometimes you have to be tough. So you have to make sure that you make your point, but never ever make it personal. So don't make a point because you want to, make sure that the guy understands you're the boss. Because nobody really cares about that. But make your point because you really believe it's the right thing to do. And if you're wrong, just say it. Oh, damn, I'm wrong, you're right. So I would say a lot of common sense and good ethic and sense of leadership, probably.
I think you're so right. We read a couple months ago Radical Candor, and they talk about criticism and critiques is part of a working environment. It's how you have that radical candor, and it starts with the top down.
Yeah, I mean,
you have to put yourself in a position to receive that.
Indeed, and then you have to have a little bit of a conflict inside. And it's not a conflict where people, punch each other. Different opinion, different perspective. Conflict of interest for some reason. The sales guy wants to sell for $1. The finance guy say, no, it's $1.50. And that is the conflict that then you have to get in between and make sure that you extract the best from both of them. But it's the conflict that gives you to the 125 price instead of 1 or instead of 50. Because if you do 150, the clients won't buy it. If you do 1, you lose money. But the 125 is the right, And believe me, it comes from conflict. It doesn't come from people that, rationalize. I mean, it comes from, people that say, oh, you don't talk to the client, I talk to the client. You don't know that the price is this. 150 would never fly. That's the discussion you have to have. And it's a conflict. And you have a lot of this every day. But I tell you, we leave the meeting room, and I've seen nobody in our company take it personal. They all do it because they want to see HZO becoming the, largest company in the world in this industry.
Yeah, they're all invested in the company, but in each other. Because
Yes.
I know there's been things delivered to me. I don't think anyone loves criticism. I don't think anyone's like,
No.
oh, yes, tell me more about how...
I'm not good at.
Right. But I can tell when someone's telling me something like, okay, you're meaning to perform here and you're coming in here. Here's what I see. And that is so valuable to
Well,
me.
it is, but you have to be mature to accept that. So that's the difference. I mean, I tell you, when I go to the board many times, they say, hey, Simone, that's not good. And you don't fight back. You just listen, you say, you know what, you're absolutely right. And you try to evolve and you try to come back the next time and making sure that they say, well, now you learn it, good. Yeah. So that's what you want to do. And you do it every day. I mean, it's not, you don't, I mean, the day you cannot do that is because you're retired. And it's not my time yet, by the way.
Nope. Now let's go back a little bit in history.
Yes.
You went to Harvard.
I did.
Yeah, and that's impressive in and of
I was
itself.
impressed too when they accepted
Really?
me.
Yeah. Just a shot in the dark. What? That happened. And that's amazing. So was this love of, manufacturing and what you do now, when did that start for you?
You mean the love of what I do?
Yeah.
That's I think hasn't finished. Meaning, I told you the curiosity, no?
Mm-hmm.
The fact that you want to understand. So the fact that I have a law degree. I was supposed to be a lawyer. My mother still thinks I should be a lawyer, probably.
You'd be a great lawyer.
Who knows? And but then I went to finance and I started working in industries, in big industries.
Uh-huh.
And when I was in aerospace and defense, for example, I love airplane. And I went and I want to see how the airplane is done. And then I went into oil and gas. And now here, I tell you, HZO is incredibly exciting. We are in the perfect place, in the perfect moment, with the perfect product. It's unbelievable. It's the perfect storm. The moment is great. The demand of this product is great. What we do is incredibly good. And the market is growing. So I don't know how to answer to a question. Probably it's just the way you are. There are people that, let's say that tomorrow you got an offer from an industry that you have never been working on. Well, many people say, I'm not going. Probably what I would say, I'm coming. I want to come.
Yeah.
Then generally people that knows me well say, do you know something about the industry? Absolutely nothing. But you go there and you have this, idea of understanding and learning, and it's just an attitude. Mm-hmm. I think it's just an attitude. You never get scared, you never get, intimidated by something, and you go ahead.
I think that's so true because, I'm not a marketer. However, I ended up at a marketing agency, doing the marketing for a marketing agency, is my background's I started out in broadcast journalism. My master's is in public relations.
Indeed.
I mean, that's why I ended up in Israel, was opening a market as an expat. But it was so many other things, like tangent things, that I came in and it was a game changer for a lot of us here. Because I ran marketing campaigns as PR campaigns.
But there are people that wouldn't take that. Mm. But they're not bad people. We're better. I mean, it's just the way people is. I would never learn something by being in a room and reading a book. I got to go and live the experience and understand. There are people that understand everything by reading a book, and they're great. Mm-hmm. So it's a different way of approaching life, I believe.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it's been painful for me because I'm like,
come on,
do I really want to start over again?
Well, you have to
or feel like I'm a novice again, or build on what I've been doing.
Sometimes life, tells you that you must,
right.
Start all over again.
Yeah.
And being ready is always good. What I'm saying is, it also depends on what is your skills. If you are an aeronautical engineer and you know how to build airplane, well, most probably you're going to stay there for a long time, because that's what you do. I'm lucky because I had this background that was nothing, was low, and it wasn't really aiming me or pushing me in any specific direction, and I went in many places, and then. So it's just how life is, I believe.
So let's talk about a time where you have taken a leap, just a leap of faith, and it worked out.
What do you mean for that? To be more specific, because I'm not American, so I'm not sure I understand the word. Sorry about that.
You weren't sure what the outcome was going to be, but you were just going to go for it.
Oh, that happened many times. I'm driven by instinct.
Are you?
Yes. When I hire somebody, I always tell me, you want to work with me, you have to grab me from the back, sit me down and say, stop, Simone, don't rush. Because I generally go for something. So I do that very often, I would say. I think that the intuition comes first and then the rational comes after with me. So I would say it happened many, many times. Many, many times, having an idea. Lately with HZO was the business model. We didn't have the right business model at the beginning. It was a good business model, but penetration wasn't right. We start talking internally that we had an idea, and we pursued that idea. People wasn't sure. But when you do something new, there are a lot of people that say you shouldn't do it. And, again, innovation. You don't innovate if you know exactly what you're doing, because every time you innovate, you say, I hope it's going to work. Right. And so I would say that we do it very often lately in HZO with a business model, to answer to your question.
Love it. What is it at this point in your career? You've seen a lot of things, right? There's probably not a scenario that you have not experienced or gone through the motions. Like that instinct is probably pretty well enforced where that gut, you're like, okay, I can check that in a quick moment. But what at this point keeps you up at night?
You know how many times they ask me the question? And now I have one answer for everybody.
Okay.
My dog.
That's fair.
But I know what you mean. So what is that? What is the challenge that? With the risk of being boring, but is innovation. So how can I make sure that we are ahead of everybody else? And whatever we are working on is something that others haven't thought about yet. So, and this comes only with one asset, which is people. You got to have the right people. You have to have the people that brainstorm together, that when they work together in a room, they have fun coming up with new ideas, and nobody try to say, oh, it will never work. It's that. That's really something that, if you stand still, you die. In this industry, in particular, because then everybody's going to do what you do. Mm-hmm. So that's probably what today with this business, what keeps me, a little bit up in the night. And my dog.
A dog.
She's terrible.
No, I would love to ask you this question and talk, because I think you're the only one I would be able to ask this question. You're not American.
That is correct. It's a fair statement.
Your background, your history, it's just different. When I lived in Israel, there was doing the work, but then there was also understanding who I was working with. And it's a steep learning curve.
It is. What is the question?
The question is, how do you do it?
Oh.
Well,
how do you do it? This is like going to the gym.
Oh.
You go to the gym every day and your body is,
mm-hmm.
You got big muscles. The same, I've been working in many countries and living in many countries. I've moved my house many times. Hope one day I'll stop, but that's what I've done. So, and you start in your own country, so you're going from one city to another city. Mm-hmm. And for a young guy, it's a big exercise. I can see this with my son now. My son is 13, and he moved from US to Italy, from Italy to US. And you see the guy, how socially becomes smart, and he understand, what is the right thing to do, who to talk to, who not to talk to. And when they are young, they have different KPIs than what we have. But that is exactly what they do. And you do this in everything you do. Now, we work a lot in China, for example. And I am happy that we work in China, not only because it's one of the most important markets today, but because that society is changing right now, and you have 1.4 billion people that is experiencing something new every day. So you go there, and it's fantastic. You got these people that finally go on vacation, that they have a normal life like us, and it's fantastic. Now, when you work in China, they have their own culture. So how do you deal now? You go there and blend. So you become Chinese, or you do not. My opinion, and it's my opinion, so I could be completely wrong, but you don't become Chinese. You respect China, and you try to understand and to know as much as you can about China. And this, of course, works with everything, okay? US, China, Africa. But don't forget who you are and where you come from. When people works with you and say, hey, you are in China, you have no idea how we do things. And you say, I know, but I'm American. Actually, I'm Italian American, even worse. So we do things our way. So let's find a common ground. So never do it the way they do it. Never pretend that they do the way you do it. So you have to, mediate all the time. So I think that our society has changed. If I think about my grandfather, idea of our grandfathers was you go in a country and you invade the country. You want everybody to become Italian or American. Or we don't do that any longer. We are better people for that for some reason. So you go in a country, you try to understand, you try to blend, but not to change who you are, and that's how it works, in my opinion. And this then comes on small things like you are in your office. And in HZO, I think we have people from, I don't remember how many, but many, many countries. And it's this fantastic melting pot. You got a lot of people talking different languages. We all try to speak English, and we all don't speak English very well, which is kind of fun.
I think that's brilliant. I mean, really, just the exercise, the gym analogy to your son, I know that just exercising that adaptability.
Indeed.
And that empathy.
Sure.
I mean, you're exercising empathy in terms of, I'm more interested in you than being interested in how maybe uncomfortable I feel.
Exactly.
Because for me, going to the grocery store was uncomfortable. I couldn't read the labels. I didn't know if I was buying flour or baking soda. That was uncomfortable.
But that is more than uncomfortable.
Right? Yeah, I was so out of my element.
It's also dangerous.
Right? Thank you. But there was this aspect of, okay, I could be really frightened by this, or I can embrace it.
Sure.
And I do love that your thought of, you do not have to be, this culture, because for them it's going to feel like a put on, or it might feel like you're
but
insulting them.
Probably, but difficult. Every person. First of all, there is this terrible attitude that we all have. I've had it too, by the way, to use stereotype.
Right.
And you don't have to. You deal with individual, and individual maybe like the stereotype, or maybe not, because they have a personal life that maybe. What I'm saying is there is no one rule. Unfortunately, you got to be very, very, very open to. And by the way, it's the fascinating stuff of our job. You go there and you don't know what is happening.
Right.
I love that, actually.
You thrive with that.
Oh, I'm super happy when I go. Many times happened to me that I have a meeting and, my assistant says, who are you meeting with? I don't remember the name. He's going to pick me up at 2 p.m. over there. What do you do? Oh, I don't know. We got to talk about something. And I love that, actually, because otherwise life is boring.
Right. We'll figure it out when we get there.
Yes. When there are two people, this could be a contract, an agreement, or, a social event. There must be an agreement. If one of the two doesn't agree, you just go a different direction. And it's the option that we all have. And if you don't like something, just go somewhere else.
Mm-hmm. It's that easy. That's pretty simple.
You don't have to. No.
Right. Yeah. What's interesting is that we've had a lot of interviews. We've done a lot of interviews within this series, and every CEO and COO and CMO that we've talked to who have had decades in whatever industry and business that they're in, they all come back to the human aspect of it.
Absolutely.
You can talk about the product, you can talk about, the financials of it, but they all come back to the right people, or just this social awareness.
But that is the luxury of interviews like yours. You're not financial journalist, whatever it is. You don't want to know, the return on investment, or that we know. We work on that every morning.
I'll grill you on that later.
Well, let's see if I can answer it.
Exactly. But it's funny how, left to talking about what they actually care to talk about, it always comes back to humans.
Sure.
And the human aspect of everything that goes into that good to great type of company. Now, the last question I have for you, I ask everyone this question. It's a big question.
Yeah.
But Simone, what, in terms of your legacy, what do you want to be remembered for?
Well, really, I never trust people that work to be remembered. They're very dangerous people. I think the history is, if you go backward and you see a lot of people that their goal was to be remembered, they didn't do good things. So I don't know. I just think that I know what I want to do. I use probably the same metrics that my wife and we use for our son. Do the right thing, be ethical, and respect people. If you do that, most probably somebody will remember you, but you will not know because you will be past. So who knows? So that's really the answer. I mean, I don't think there is one specific things that I hope people will remember me for.
That's very insightful.
Thank
you know
you.
what you want to do.
Yes.
Period.
I know, exactly.
Well, I hear you're doing it. You have a lot of fans. I've heard from them as well.
Thank you.
Your reputation precedes you. So thank you for being part of this series, for sitting down with me and making the whole interview.
Grazie. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Hope to see you soon, though. Ciao.